Jim Jordan just gave a passionate speech about the First Amendment. Then Jamie Raskin asked him one question. Does the First Amendment apply to Donald Trump too? Watch what happens when nobody on that side of the room can answer.
We've talked, generally, the previous speaker talked about factual information. We've talked about fact-checking. Fact-checking, you know what fact-checking is truly supposed to be in this country? The First Amendment, not some expert who can sit on and look at posts and tweets and different things and say, oh, that's not factual, take it down. That's not how it works. Fact-checking is the First Amendment. Someone says something stupid, and that happens every day in this Congress. Someone says something crazy. Someone says something that's not quite true, not quite accurate. You know what the fact check is? Someone says something else, and you have debate. That's what we do in this committee every day. And this is the committee who's supposed to protect that fundamental fact. Real fact-checking is the First Amendment. Our Supreme Court has been clear about that. You don't like certain speech, the best speech for wrong speech is more speech. The best speech for false speech is true speech. That's how it works. You have a debate and you trust we, the people, to figure it out, not some expert who's going to fact check every tweet, every post. And we saw this in the Biden administration. We're seeing it in Europe now. We're seeing it in Brazil. That was the first bill we dealt with from the gentleman from California, his good legislation that we all agreed on. We're going to work on and put a good bill on the floor. So that's the key. That's what and we know it happened because, again, we had the guy who runs one of the biggest companies in the world, most successful tech companies in the world, tell us it happened. We had on the third day of the Biden administration an email from the White House to Twitter saying, take down this tweet ASAP. The government telling a business to take down a tweet, and the tweet, ironically, was from RFK Jr., who was going to be running for president against the guy in the White House. So he was saying, take down the speech of my opponent. That's not how it's supposed to work in this country. That's what we're concerned about. That's why it's in our oversight plan. And if you want additional things to look at, again, put them in your viewpoints. We're happy to accept them. We'll take everything Mr. Raskin has said today, everything the gentlelady from Texas has said today. We'll take everything the Democrats said. You want to put all that in your plan? Put it in your plan. That's fine. That's how it works. But no, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I yield back to the gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I'm inspired by your First Amendment passion. You are the
I knew you would be.
You are the John Stuart Mill of the House of Representatives and the Voltaire of Congress, and you put me in the mood of Justice Brandeis. But I want to ask.
Stop there.
No, I got to keep going a little bit because I have to know whether or not your First Amendment passion and principles, which I take to be completely true, and I've always known that about you, extend to one citizen named Donald Trump. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump for a second, okay? He is, after all, I think, the President of the United States. And check this out, okay? Everybody in this room who's sitting on this side of the dais is a politician, okay? We have people say stuff about us and say stuff about our rivals and our opponents all the time. I don't know if there's anybody here who's ever sued anybody in politics for libel or defamation. I'm taking that no. I imagine a lot of us have felt like, have you? Well, I'll be curious to hear about that later, Mr. Issa. But the vast majority of us don't sue people even when we feel really aggrieved by the mean things that people say. And yet, Donald Trump gets to be president of the United States, and suddenly he decides he doesn't like Jim Jordan's approach, which is the answer to bad speech is good speech. The answer to false speech is true speech. The answer to nonsense is the dialectics of expression. That's the spirit of the First Amendment. Well, check this one out. Donald Trump personally suing CBS for $20 billion. The president of the United States is suing CBS for $20 billion. Why? What did they say about him? Did they lie about him? Did they defame him? No, it has nothing to do with him. It has to do with the way he thinks they unfairly edited a video conversation with Kamala Harris. He said that the way the video looked in the commercial for 60 Minutes was different from the way she appeared. The president of the United States is suing them for $20 billion and ordering the FCC, which is part of the US government and under his unitary executive theory, reporting directly to him like a monarch. He's ordered them to go out and investigate CBS. And meantime, his close friend is trying to take over Paramount. And so he's, of course, completely entangled on the business side. That's not the first time. He did it to ABC with George Stephanopoulos, which settled a suit for him for, I think that one was $15 million. The President of the United States is shaking down the media. Would you guys really be so silent and taciturn about this if it was Joe Biden doing that? Honestly, I'm just waiting for one person to answer me honestly about it. Would you guys be okay if Joe Biden had been the one who had said destroy a grand jury subpoena against the Democratic mayor of New York for corruption? Would you be okay with that? But suddenly, because it's Donald Trump, you don't want to do oversight on it. It's the most amazing thing in the world. And there are young people watching, and this is the US government. And we're going to be silent with all of these attacks on the First Amendment where the president is saying, I don't like the words you use. I want you to say Gulf of America, not Gulf of Mexico. Associated Press is now banned from this room. I'm kicking you out. I mean, come on. This is the United States of America. Will any of my friends over there, all of whom understand and love the First Amendment, say it should apply even against the President of the United States? And I know you voted for him, and you'd vote for him again if the Constitution changes and so on. But leaving all that aside, does the First Amendment not apply to him? So I find that we are in an astonishing situation right now.
Will the ranker yield?
I would gladly yield to the gentlelady from Texas.
You brought up the Gulf of Mexico, and, you know, I just left and I was talking about facts versus fiction. I'm curious to know, do y'all agree that it's the Gulf of Mexico? Can we say that that's a fact? Are any of y'all willing to say that it's the Gulf of Mexico instead of Gulf of America?
Well, but reclaiming my time, I would say that these days, that's a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact from the standpoint of objective sources. But if people want to say it, that's great. I would never kick them out of the room for saying something different. But that's what's happening with Donald Trump. He's kicking people out of the room and punishing them, subordinating their role as press because they're not complying with his orders. That's not the First Amendment. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized for unanimous consent.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit for the record this rather ironically titled document. It was actually put out by the Associated Press. It's a little old, it's a little dated, but I just do think it's ironic anyway, nonetheless apropos for today. It's called Report, Obama Brings Chilling Effect on Journalism.
Without objection. The gentleman from...
Jordan's argument was simple and actually correct on its face. The answer to bad speech is good speech. The answer to false speech is true speech. That is the First Amendment. That is how it is supposed to work. Raskin agreed with all of it, and then he applied it. Donald Trump is suing CBS for $20 billion, not because they lied about him, not because they defamed him, because he did not like the way they edited a video of his political opponent. $20 billion from the President of the United States against a news organization, while his close ally is simultaneously trying to acquire the parent company. He settled with ABC for $15 million after George Stephanopoulos made a comment he did not like. He ordered the FCC, which under his own unitary executive theory reports directly to him, to investigate CBS. He banned the Associated Press from the White House press room because they refused to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Jordan said the answer to speech you disagree with is more speech. Raskin's question was direct. Does that principle apply to the president? Does the First Amendment protect people from Donald Trump the same way it protects Donald Trump from everyone else? Nobody answered, not one person on that side of the room. And that silence is the most important moment in this entire exchange. Because if the First Amendment only applies when it is convenient, when it protects your side, your allies, your president, then it is not a principle. It is a preference. and preferences are not constitutional rights. Raskin called it shaking down the media. He asked if anyone in that room would have been silent if Joe Biden had done the same things, sued a network for $20 billion, ordered a federal agency to investigate his critics, banned a news organization from the White House for using the wrong name for a body of water. The room stayed quiet because the answer was obvious. And everyone in that room knew it. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because this conversation about who the First Amendment actually protects is nowhere near finished. And there is one more layer worth naming. Raskin did not attack Jordan's First Amendment position. He endorsed it. He called Jordan the John Stuart Mill of the House of Representatives, the Voltaire of Congress. He said he took Jordan's passion for the First Amendment to be completely true. That framing was deliberate because it makes the follow-up impossible to dodge. If you genuinely believe what you just said, that the answer to false speech is true speech, that the government should never tell a business to take down content, that debate and expression are how a free society resolves disagreement, then you have to apply that principle consistently to everyone, including the person in the White House, including when it is uncomfortable, including when the answer might cost you politically. Jordan did not apply it consistently. Nobody on that side did. And Raskin did not need to make that argument himself. He just asked the question and let the silence make it for him. That is the technique, not accusation, not confrontation, agreement followed by application. Take the principle your opponent just stated publicly under bright lights on camera, accept it completely, and then ask whether it applies to the person they are protecting. Because if the answer is yes, they have to say something they do not want to say. And if the answer is no, or if there is no answer at all, the principle was never really the point. The silence in that room was not confusion, it was calculation. And everyone watching understood exactly what that calculation meant.